is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? How you doing, Robbie? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Thank you so much for dropping by or downloading us. Hope you're enjoying your summer, and I hope you're enjoying all of these hardworking authors we bring to you week after week, just in time for the summer reading series. I'm astounded, honestly, by the diversity in backgrounds and stories and the difficulties people are able to overcome, determined to overcome, because they want to get that book, that first book published in most cases, so bad. Or in the case of Jack Barnhart, because they desperately want justice. He's a private investigator who took on a murder case that dated back to the 80s. He decided to look into the case in 2015, and he's convinced the wrong man is behind bars. The case has never been solved, but he's determined justice will be served, in part with his book entitled And Then There Was Reasonable Doubt. The State of Ohio versus Charles Keith Wampler. Jack.
In February 1982, David Rowell's body was found along Kreitzer Road in Mulrain, Ohio. He was murdered, naked. His penis was amputated.
Oh, my God.
And the police arrested a 16-year-old boy and another 15-year-old boy and charged them with rape, kidnapping, murder, and abuse of a corpse. And the 16-year-old was tried in Montgomery County Common Pleas Court as an adult. The 15-year-old was tried in Montgomery County Juvenile Court. And the state had two theories of the crime, which is illegal, and they tried these two guys separately and got convictions on both. And there's definite evidence that Charles Keith Wampler, who was the 16-year-old at the time, did not do this crime.
So were you hired to investigate?
What's interesting is I got an email from Lori Wampler, Keith's wife, and it was, I'm looking for somebody who's willing to take a call from my husband. He's in the London Correctional Facility. We're trying to get help. So I went over and met her in Dayton. She had police reports, the trial transcripts, which Montgomery County claims doesn't exist. She said, listen, we don't have any money. We've been taken to the cleaners by private investigators in the past. And I said, I'll tell you what, if there's a case here, I'll run with it. I said, but I'll work it pro bono. And I got maybe into the fifth police report, and I took a look. I'm like, uh-oh, we have a case. Police procedure was not followed, incomplete autopsy.
So that's what the whole book is about, is what you went through and how you worked this case.
Exactly.
Wow.
It shows the problems that we have with the case. Here's just an example. The autopsy, they never tested the victim's stomach contents. They said it was a green, leafy substance. What was it? If it was a vegetable, like I believe it was, that tells me he was home 2 to 4 hours prior to his death. What the state of Ohio claims is that he was tied up in Keith Wampler's trailer and was being sexually abused until Wampler decided to kill him. I think what you had was you had a high school dropout living in a trailer park in Mulrain, Ohio, a small suburban police department, and they said, okay, we have this troublemaker. They actually picked him up on an outstanding warrant out of Warren County. They said, I believe they came to the conclusion, let's just get rid of this troublemaker.
Wow.
He's still in prison since 1982. What I'm hoping to do with the book is to raise money to get him a halfway decent attorney to get him out of prison. This here, to be quite honest about it, one of the state's prosecutors in this case, 2 years after this case, lost his law license for subornation of perjury.
Wow.
He was suborning perjury while he was at the prosecutor's office. Why? Nobody said, time out, let's take a look at all of these cases he's handled. Why they didn't do that is beyond me. That should have been. We found out he was suborning perjury in this case. Two of the key players in this case, one was the lead prosecutor and the other one was the quote-unquote evidence technician. They're both judges in the Montgomery County Common Pleas Court.
Wow.
I found out his lawyers lied. They committed fraud upon the court by stating they went out and visited the crime scene. They never visited the crime scene. The state's key witness was a 7-year-old. According to the prosecution, the 7-year-old saw David Rowell go into Keith Wampler's trailer. I go out, I prove that was physically impossible, and when I located that witness down in Florida, he says, I was told to say that. I was under pressure to say that by the prosecutor.
Man, you need a whole team to work on this.
The sad thing is when you have a miscarriage of justice like this, unless you got like a Stephen Avery case where everybody and their brother wants to do a Netflix story, nobody cares.
Yep, that is so true. It's not so much about justice as it is about a story that'll make money and get a lot of attention. The other problem is there are so many people claiming they've been victims of the justice system that it's really difficult to weed them out, and no one wants to get involved. Thanks, Jack. In the same vein as the movie Stand By Me, remember that movie? We have The Legend of Jenny Ann, an Adventure Squad novel by Lloyd Jackson. He lives in Wyoming, where he'll be the first to tell you a young man's imagination can go wild. Tell us about this Adventure Squad, Lloyd.
The kids that are in it, the teenagers that are in it, they decide to solve a mystery, and one of the main characters comes up with the name Adventure Squad.
Okay, what's the book about?
There's a disappearance of a teenage girl years before, and on full moon nights, the kids and the people see a mist up on a ridge, and these 3 kids that are in the book decide to solve the mystery of the disappearance of this girl and the mist up on the ridge. And we used to live in the little town that the story is set in. Me and my family did back in the early 1980s. And me and 2 of my friends, a guy and a gal, we all decided to take a hike up into the mountains. It just kind of came to me because we'd find things along the side of the road, and we started making up a story about why that, like a windshield wiper or stuff like that was laying alongside the road there, and that's when the story came to me.
When you were a kid, or?
Yeah, I was about 16, 17.
And with a vivid imagination, walking through these areas where you think nobody's ever been, and then you find these weird things and make up stories about them.
That's correct.
And now you're older than 16 now, right?
Yes, I am. Considerably. This was 1980 when I was there, and so.
So it took you a while to get it down on paper.
Yeah, I've always had the idea, but it took me probably 2 or 3 years to get it all laid out the way that I wanted it. I worked for a coal mine out there in Wyoming, and it's an hour and a half bus ride to and from work, and so I had plenty of time on my hands. So I bought a small laptop computer, and I started writing as a way to help pass the time.
Great idea. So many people complain they don't have the time. You found it.
Right.
So what happens now?
I have a sequel that I've already finished, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through the third book now.
So you have a trilogy coming.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be 4 books total.
Good for you. Do people know you're writing this book? Do people know you're an author now?
They're starting to find out. I've been sending it, like one of the main characters in the book. I based it off of the girl that was with me when we went on the hike, and I sent it to her, and she's been showing it to everybody, and my wife and a bunch of my friends have been my biggest cheerleaders. So they've been telling everybody and showing the book around. In fact, I sent the book to the town Round Mountain where the book is centered. I sent them a book and told them that I could be there if they wanted to have a book signing.
Good idea, Lloyd. You should follow up on that. You could wind up putting that little town on the map. You never know. Next up, Karina Epperly has another coming-of-age tale for us about 3 very brave and very intelligent young girls who have some tough decisions to make in her book entitled Chocolate Chunk and Lollipop. Karina.
Initially, it's about 3 10-year-old girls who are neighborhood friends, and they discovered that there's another little girl who has been kidnapped and is being held hostage in their neighborhood, and they can't get any adults to believe them. so they are going to have to figure out a way to rescue the little girl themselves if they can figure out a way to do that without getting hurt themselves. And then while they are trying to determine how to do that, one of the friends comes across some information that looks like one of the other friends might also have been kidnapped herself as an infant, but she doesn't know whether or not to bring that information up to her friend because her friend has a happy home life. So should she bring it up or should she not bring it up?
And once you decided to write a book, then the ideas just started coming.
Right. I would get bits of pieces of information that would pop up, and I would jot the information down, or a scene would pop in my head, and I would write the scene down before I would forget it. And over the course of maybe 3 months, I would be writing notes down. And when I had enough information together, then finally one day I just sat down and started putting it all together. And it took about maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks to write the whole book once I started actually putting it together. I actually enjoy reading stories about children. The fact that children can do things and adults don't realize how well children can actually put pieces of puzzles together, and that kids can do things better than what adults give them credit for.
You are so right about that. You are so right about that. So these girls actually figure this out and, have to, well, this one girl has to decide whether she's going to drop this bombshell.
Right. And I been asked by a few people if I would write a sequel to this book because I want to know what's going to happen next in their lives. So I'm contemplating whether or not to do a sequel to this one. And then I also have a story going on in my head for another novel that's non-related.
Wow, you're busy, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad I did it. I can't wait to see my first check to see how well it's doing. I know that right away I saw that there was sales going on in other countries, online sales. So I'm hopeful that that's going to be good too. And I want to do book signings. I can start doing the smaller stores. I want to contact a few more stores to see if they can get me on their shelves too, and do book signings with them also. And I hope anybody who reads it enjoys it.
All right, Karina, sounds like a plan. Glad to hear you're trying to get out there and press the flesh and get some book signings going. It's probably one of the hardest things you have to do as an author. All right, we have to take a very short break, but we are coming right back with some Sicilian inspiration and advice for coaches. Don't go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Sharon Ritz found herself out of a job and searching for something that would fulfill her. She was inspired by a well-known author who she related to write a story about love, lust, revenge, and family dysfunction. It's called Fabriano Dynasty, The Beginning. Sharon, you were inspired by?
Actually, J.K. Rowling. I had read her life story. And I just said, you know what? If she can do this, why can't I? Because I've always been a reader. And romance, of course, was the type of book to read. And Danielle Steele, I love her. So I just sat down one day and just, made up these characters. And they just started coming to life, and it's just made up as I go on. Sometimes, though, I will be out, and I'll see something that maybe somebody might be doing or something, and then it might trigger something, and I say, oh, I could use that, in my book, and I might put that in. Just something that, I said, why not take a shot at this, and it'll either work or it won't.
Right.
So
right. This story just kind of came to you, basically.
Yeah, Fabriano. I just one day just thought, I want to see if there are really any Fabrianos out there. And actually there are.
Oh,
it's something I made up. And obviously they're an Italian family. They're brothers, and they own a very successful, high-class chain of department stores. They live in New York City, but they do originally come from Palermo, which is in Sicily. And the one brother becomes attracted to a fashion designer, naive young girl from the southern tier, didn't come from much, didn't have much. It was just her and her parents. And she goes to New York City, goes to design school, becomes a fashion designer. And of course, her goal is to become a very successful fashion designer, which, eventually she does. But one of the owners of Fabriano's is attracted to her. And of course, he does everything he can to get her attention. And of course, he succeeds. But then they go through a lot of ups and downs, and there's murder in it, betrayal, secrets, lies.
Secrets, lies, sex, murder, betrayal.
Yeah. And it's almost like, in a way, kind of like a dysfunctional family.
I'm reading their blurb, and it says Anthony's twin brother.
Yeah.
He is a loving husband and father. He's got a demon that's ruining his life. And then they get a visit from a family member that they didn't know, and they're shocked. And then the girl that he falls in love with is hurt, and they don't know who's responsible for this tragedy.
Yeah. In fact, Cheryl, she is the obsessive ex-girlfriend of Anthony.
Okay.
Yeah, she does everything she can to try to get Crystal out of the picture.
Okay.
There's accidents. So Cheryl's going to do whatever she can and use people to her advantage to help her succeed in her plans for trying to ruin their relationship. But they aren't going to let anybody destroy the relationship, no matter who and what they try to do to them.
You mentioned earlier they're a wealthy family, but they have issues. Is that? Mm-hmm. I think that's great, because we often walk around thinking, I'm the only one that has issues. It's only my family. Look at them. They have everything.
Right.
And, that's not true. Nobody escapes. Everybody's got something.
Exactly.
Is that kind of the message of your book?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes. I mean, there's kind of like a little bit of mafia ties to it.
Mafia action.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, who doesn't like to just escape from their daily hectic lives and then read a good book, that catches your attention, and that's how I always kind of looked at it.
That's right, Sharon. Well, good for you, and keep going. I look forward to talking to you on the next installment of the Fabriano Dynasty. Well, speaking of Sicilian inspiration, that's the name of Patrice Sullivan's book. She was also inspired by an Italian family to write a cookbook. Patrice.
Well, I've been writing. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and they centered on writing and stuff like that, and Shakespeare and stuff. So I've read thousands of books. I've been reading since I've been 3. But in Catholic high school, we had to read 10 books in the summer. I thought, oh, my God. But then I found out it was easy. I love to read. There's nothing like a book.
Yeah, a good book, yes.
This book was written a while ago. In the last 10 years, I wrote children's books because I was hoping, and I did get grandchildren. But I married into this incredible family. My parents were divorced when I was 2. So I did a lot of reading. I spent a lot of time in duck blinds with my father. We had family that were farmers. We gardened and had orchards, and I have them small orchard and garden now. And then I made this big marriage into this incredible Sicilian family. And the minute I met my mother-in-law, who wasn't my mother-in-law yet, she hugged me like nobody ever hugged me, and she loved me unconditionally from that day. She passed away a couple years ago, and this woman, an incredible woman, an incredible mom and grandma, and just homemade cooking, everything from scratch. The other grandmother even took pits out of olives to make dinner on Sunday. Who does that?
Yeah, I know, right? This is a book of recipes, right?
Yes, this is a cookbook. Just a book with good recipes in it. But the thing is families make memories around the dinner table. So these recipes are from them. They're their favorite recipes that they taught me. A lot of them are. And I still make every Wednesday and Sunday spaghetti like my mother-in-law did for 50 years.
Yeah.
And my sons, when they're coming up here, they can smell they call it gravy, the red sauce, at the bottom of the hill. They know what they're having for lunch. And they make it too. So we're passing it on. I'm making them with my granddaughter. Memories are made by being together and sharing something, talking, lives, food, something. So that's why it was important to get that recipe. And then my mother-in-law passed away, so that was very horrible for me.
So what's your favorite recipe?
I just think the original, we call it red sauces. They call it gravy. Spaghetti sauce with the meatballs, and it's simple, but the minute I smell it, I remember 40 years of memories, and I can't wait to have it again.
Why should we buy your cookbook when there's a million cookbooks out there on how to make sauce?
There are. One is mine's very expensive, thank you, Page Publishing. The other thing is I've never met a person that doesn't like Italian or Sicilian food.
Right.
Most of them don't cook it. They go out and buy it. Why not spend the money, half the money you would at a restaurant, buy the cookbook. You can cook for months. You can make it yourself. You can teach your family to make it. You can make memories with it. Home cooking's always better than going out, always. It's authentic from some Sicilian ladies that came over on the boat, and it made me realize more what family was about, because I wasn't really raised by a family. I was just raised by my father. The minute I started cooking with these ladies, I knew that was where I was supposed to be my whole life.
Well, what a nice tribute to your mother-in-law and all of those women who taught you how to cook. Thanks, Patrice. Finally, David Thompson leaves coaches with some advice from his own experience as an athlete and as a track and field coach in his book entitled College and High School Dual Season Practice Book. David, you must have seen a real need for this book.
Yes, over the years, coaching track back in the 90s, and, we were coaching 80-something kids, and we have to try to find... We try to, give all the kids the attention they need, and that wasn't easy. And that's why I implement this book, to give coaches insight on how to, divide themselves up to, reach every single kid. Because I coach at the college level for one season, and it was only me and two other coaches, and that was it. I think they should have more coaches because we have 14 events in high school and 16 plus events in college. So many kids at a time.
What do you suggest these coaches do?
If they have only two or three coaches, they should divide up the events and, or make sure they have, coaches that, know what they're doing or educate them before, they come aboard.
What other suggestions do you have?
The head coach, educated on all the running events as well as the field events.
Are you still a coach?
I coach privately.
Okay.
Because of my job.
Oh, that's not your full-time job?
No. I'm a mentor now. I mentor kids. I go to their home. I work with the kids. That's my full-time job.
That's a great thing that you do.
Yeah.
So you're a mentor and you coach on the side, and you felt the need for this book.
Because they need that vision to help kids. So when they competed high school, they can come back, or they can come back and coach Like, for example, look, I might go to the track and I'll hear feedback from the kids. My coach doesn't help me with anything. He only help the ones that he thinks, it was better. I'm like, gee, that's not good. When I was coaching, I make sure I get to everyone, not only the ones I think, score points or think better.
Right.
I'm working with every single kid. I don't criticize. I don't make any judgments. I'm going to work with them no matter what.
So you feel that coaches don't do a good enough job getting to every child. They're just focusing on the winners, quote unquote, the ones that have natural ability, the ones that are going to be successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I already have a topic. 3 things adolescents had to deal with after graduating from high school and college. 3 things they have to think about or focus on. That's going to be a challenge for them. Family, relationship, and being employed. 3 things adolescents have to deal with after graduating from high school and college.
Yep.
Family issues, relationship they have to deal with.
Yep.
With family, being employed, the stuff you have to go through, it can be a headache.
Yeah, I believe that, and there's no handbook for that. And there's no handbook for us. Am I right, Rob? Am I right? No handbook. We just come in, talk, and go home. And that's what we are about to do right this very minute. We are out of time. Thank you so much for being with us, and do visit again every Saturday at midnight, or download us anytime you want at 710WOR.iheart.com. Thanks for checking out the Page Publishing Book Club. Have a great week.